Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle, and welcome to the National Parks Adventure, Crossing America. Today we are located at the foot of Lake McDonald in Apgar Village in Glacier National Park. A special thank you to the National Park Foundation for all of their collaboration and support with this project. Today we're going to be meeting two amazing rangers, Ranger Matt and Ranger Lindsay. So Ranger Lindsay, I'm going to start with you. Tell us your journey to the National Park Service.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to get to visit national parks when I was a kid. I really enjoyed, going hiking, and I remember I visited Glacier several times as a kid. I came here on the train with my family, and I remember going to Ranger Talks and being like, that's so cool that that's somebody's job. And when I was in college, I was studying history and environmental studies and all these things, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to focus on. I was doing teaching, and then I was like, wait, that actually would all kind of add up to, being an education or interpretation ranger for the parks. And so I got my first Park Service job, seasonal job, while I was still in college, worked at Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. Since then, I've worked at a bunch of different parks and was lucky enough to get to end up back here at Glacier, where I had first had that thought and that idea that I wanted to be a park ranger. And I'm really proud and excited that I get to do this as my job.
Well, let's name those parks. So you said Rock Creek, which we've been to.
Yeah,
Where else have
Rock
you been?
Creek Park in Washington, D.C. I worked for several years at Rangers National Park, where I know you've also been at some point. And I worked at Grand Canyon National Park. I volunteered at Amistad National Recreation Area for a little bit. And I worked for the Bureau of Land Management as well at Yaquina Head Outstanding Natural Area.
But now you're back at Glacier, where the experience first happened for you. Well, we're glad you're here. Ranger Matt, tell us about your journey.
Sure. So I grew up in southern West Virginia, very close to the New River Gorge, and I ended up being a volunteer there at one point, and that kind of got me interested in what the National Park Service does. I felt like that experience really helped me have a better idea of what it was like to learn in a place like this. That was a really kind of powerful experience for me, and then that kind of prompted me to continue to do that. And then the more I did that, the more I found I enjoyed learning that way, and also then sharing what I was learning with others. So that's how I kind of got started.
So besides New River Gorge, were there other parks?
Yeah, I've worked at quite a few at this point. But yeah, it's kind of all over the country. My first park ranger job was at Cape Hatteras National Seashore on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I worked for a little bit at Acadia National Park, Carlsbad Caverns, Crater Lake, Cape Lookout National Seashore, another national seashore on the coast of North Carolina, Craters of the Moon, and now at Glacier. I think that's all of them.
Lovely. And we have been to 95% of those in film. So, but today it's all about Glacier, right? Glacier National Park. How did this place get started, Ranger Lindsay?
I mean, it's hard to really think about how it got started because, of course, this is, the glaciers have been carving this area for a long time. There are, humans and people that have had connections to this place for thousands and thousands of years. But in terms of becoming, a national park itself, Glacier was established in 1910. The Great Northern Railway was a big part of kind of making this more of like a tourist destination. There was a whole kind of campaign to get people to, visit national parks. There was Many Glacier Valley, which is one part of the park people refer to as the Switzerland of North America. And the Great Northern Railway was a big part of kind of establishing some of the historic lodges that are still here at the park today, that are still some of the kind of developed, the areas of the park where people will visit and stay. And yeah, it was established as a park in 1910, and that was actually before the National Park Service was even established. So about 6 years before there was even a National Park Service.
To make this a touristy place, they wanted to bring more people in here, so the railroad. So what would they be able to experience here when they come to the park?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons people come to Glacier. I think it's a pretty inspiring place. We talk a lot about the kids, or we talk to the kids that we work with a lot about like what makes a place wild. And I feel like people from all over the world come here and everybody has their own kind of different experience. Some people may stand right here and see the Milky Way for the first time at night, or some people will climb mountains and spend like a week in the backcountry. So there's a lot of different experiences people can have here. But going back to what I first said, I think it's a pretty inspiring place no matter what you do. Even if you just drive across the Going to the Sun Road, I mean, it's one of the best drives you can take. It's pretty. The scenery here is pretty amazing.
So that includes wildlife. So we know
Yeah.
that we have moose
Totally.
and grizzly bears. We also have black bear here. We have some interesting animals too. I think I learned wolverines.
Yeah, we've
are
got wolverines here. They're pretty impressive how much they can move around on the snow and in the mountains with their big snowshoe feet.
Yeah. So do you guys have snow hares?
We do have snowshoe hares, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found out recently that those change colors. Their fur changes color depending on the season.
Yes, yeah, snowshoe hares. And we have two other animals that also have their color change for the season. So ptarmigans also will turn, they're kind of bird, kind of related to like a grouse, kind of looks like a chicken. Ptarmigans will change color in the winter. And also we have ermines, so like the little weasels that'll change to white in the winter as well. So lots of that to kind of camouflage and be able to blend in with the snow or with everything else, depending on the season.
So if you're a geologist or a rock hound or just love rocks, this is the place to come also, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular place as far as geology goes. I mean, some of the sedimentary rocks that we have in the park date back like 1.5 billion years ago. There's been several different geologic processes that have happened since then, where now we have some of the older layers of rock that have shifted over time to be on top of the more recent layers of rock. So our layers of sedimentary rock in some places of the park are kind of out of order. And over time, weathering and erosion have stripped away the more recent layers and have exposed those older layers of rock. So places where you can come and hike on rocks that could date back to like over 1 billion years old, seeing some of the fossils, some of the evidence from when this place wasn't quite like this. It was a lot different.
So covered in water, right?
Yeah, covered in water. So this part of North America at, somewhere around 1.5 billion years ago was underwater. A shallow, warm sea called the Belt Sea was here and laid down a lot of that sediment, or all that sediment that we now see the sedimentary rocks are made of today.
So we talked about rocks and we talked about wildlife here, but something huge behind us is water. And
Really?
there are lots of sources of water here. In fact, how many possible?
Yeah, so there's over probably 1,000 different bodies of water between lakes, rivers, streams, ponds, things like that. You mentioned the wildlife that we have in the park. So a big part of Glacier is our biodiversity, and our freshwater ecosystems play a big role in that. So we have a lot of water that's important to plants, animals, and people. And a lot of visitors come to see these really amazing lakes and streams that we have. It's, I think one of the more unique things about the park is you see this really crystal clear water, not only in our lakes, but flowing through our rivers and streams pretty much all year round.
And we gave a lot of shout out to the bears and the moose and the wolverines. We also have things under the water here. So can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the bull trout?
Yeah, so I mean, there's just in general, there's a lot of different, we have, let's see, the meltwater stonefly is an important food source for, some of the native fish like the bull trout. And they need that really cold meltwater. I know, Matt was saying that there's all these water sources, but also the park was shaped by water in the form of glaciers. And then again, a lot of those animals, like those native trout, rely on those cold streams to be able to survive. So this is a really kind of important place for a lot of different things.
And we want to make sure we're taking care
Oh,
of
of
all
course.
of that.
Yeah.
So with these bodies of water come responsibilities. And I know that you have guidelines laid out on how to, act and behave around water, but I'm thinking there might be some problems with that. So can you talk to that just a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So like you said, responsibility around water is a big thing. A lot of, not only Glacier, but throughout the National Park Service, there's a lot of deaths each year with drowning. And so a few things I think people could think about as they are recreating in and around water is one. I think the first thing you can do is a personal flotation device, a PFD, right? Like even if you're an expert swimmer, there's still no harm in wearing a PFD, even if you're swimming, rafting, floating, anything like that. I mean, that's kind of the first step. Another thing I think is just like situational awareness, being aware of where you are, what you're doing, how close you are to the edge. Are you near swift water? Often when you're around water, you're going to be around slick rocks as well, so it's really easy to lose footing. We are in a national park. We are somewhat remote, so they're not paved trails to these areas. So just people who may not be familiar with a place like this, just taking that into consideration when you're near water.
So back in the day, there was a song, "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." That is
Ooh.
true.
Yeah.
We don't need to be climbing waterfalls or swimming near waterfalls, because that is moving water.
Yeah, and I think people often underestimate too, you're here on a hot day, like even today, I think it's in the 50s today, but it's still feeling pretty warm, and especially in the summer, you're like, oh, that water looks really inviting, but people don't realize just how cold it is. We've got lakes that again are fed by glacial meltwater. We've got these rushing streams where, if it looks like it'd be nice to swim. This lake, people swim in and all of that, it's not quite as cold, but especially some of those moving streams, waterfalls are a lot colder and moving a lot faster than you might expect when you just see it, and it looks kind of inviting on a hot summer day.
With over 3 million visitors a year, we sometimes love parks to death. We love them so much that we congregate and we maybe do things we shouldn't have. There's not 3 million park rangers here, so
Nope.
This is not a one-to-one situation, and there's no lifeguards right behind me here. So I think possibly your challenge could be making sure people are doing the right thing around water.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a good point. Like a lot of your safety, I think, falls on you, your responsibility, how you're prepared and how you're behaving in the park. Like you said, there's not 3 million rangers here. The closest hospital is probably about an hour away to 2 hours away, depending where you're at. So just making sure you're behaving appropriately, making smart choices, smart decisions to put yourself or to keep yourself out of danger, and also other people.
So fly fishing here, regular fishing,
Yeah.
swimming,
Mm-hmm.
boating. So
Yes.
we've got quite a few kayaking, rafts, motor. In fact, I think this is closed in certain seasons, but in a few days it's going to open up for watercraft.
Yeah.
So many opportunities to be smart, but also many opportunities to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
So I think we found a challenge. When you're around water, there are rules that you follow. Most of you probably go to pools where you have lifeguards and placards that are posted that say don't do this and don't do this. You may go to lakes and do kneeboarding or skiing, and there are things out there. Same thing in national parks. You've got to be careful. So how can you create some new ideas for the park rangers to use here to encourage people to be safe around the water? So you know me well, and you know that I sometimes fall. So if I were to step off here, I'm going to fall backwards in the water, and although it would be very entertaining for you, it would be a little bit dangerous. Now this is very shallow water, but as we know, people can drown in just 2 inches of water. So how are you going to create new ideas in your community, new ideas at your school on being safe around water? Even fishing, when you're pulling in a really big fish and it pulls you, it could pull you in. We want to be safe. This place is for our enjoyment, it's to enjoy the beauty around it. So knowing that they have some challenges with water, we want you to create your ideas. You're going to share those with the national parks. We're going to run our taglines across the bottom of the screen, and these park rangers are going to want to know what ideas you're implementing into your own communities, and maybe you guys can use some of those here. Sound good?
Yeah, would love to hear those ideas, because even just hiking by water, there's so many times when people are encountering water here at Glacier National Park.
Well, I think these kids can solve it for you.
We'll see.
So I want to give these students a little glimpse into what they can do now to prepare for a job in nature, in public lands, whether it be the National Park Service or the Bureau of Reclamation or possibly in your state Department of Natural Resources. How can you start preparing for those jobs now? Matt, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
What advice would you give these students? And you're going to look right in that middle camera and share that with us.
Sure. Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is just starting to gain experience in trying different things out, right? To see what maybe you're into. There's a lot of different jobs you can do for the National Park Service or other land management agencies. Anything from talking to kids like I do, studying grizzly bears, balancing budgets. There's a lot of different jobs that we need people to do in national parks. So I think trying out as many of those things earlier is better than later. Kind of finding things you're interested in, developing those skills, gaining that experience. And I think another good way to gain that experience and kind of get ideas of what it's like is reaching out to your national parks and reaching out to park rangers. We get a lot of emails and letters from students from around the country asking these same questions, like what's your favorite part of the job? Like what type of skills and experience you need. So if you do have specific questions, or if you're interested in what a day in the life of a park ranger is like, reach out to a national park. There's over 430 national park sites now across America, and I think most people are fairly close to a national park or a national park ranger. And that's not even counting like Forest Service sites and other agencies. So there's a lot of resources out there, and I'd encourage you to be brave and reach out.
Be brave and reach out. I love that. And Lindsay, I know that some of what he said resonated with you, but any other ideas? Just talk to him.
The biggest thing that I would say is, Matt talked about getting experiences in different things, but is just to do what you love and to figure out what you're excited about and learn more about that. I know when I was kind of coming up through school and all of that, I couldn't decide what I wanted to focus on. And so I learned about all these different things and eventually found out like, oh, I can combine all these things that I'm passionate about. And so if you follow what you're passionate about and find ways to learn about it, to share, and to do all of these kinds of just, learning, you're gonna end up somewhere doing something that you're passionate about and that you're excited about. So I think that's what I love about the Park Service is there's not just one way to get here, but everybody that I work with is passionate about public lands and about parks, but often very different things within them. And so just following your passions and seeing where that takes you.
At Expeditions in Education, we say when your passion intersects your purpose, that's where you need to live, and that sounds like where you guys are living now. You love what you do. It is your purpose to educate kids and be good humans. So thank you so much for joining us today, and a special thank you to the National Park Foundation for your collaboration on this project. So on behalf of these amazing rock star rangers, Matt and Lindsay, and myself, Dr. Drizzle, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time, everyone. Bye.